Today we're talking about the Cromod has returned and is prepared to reverberate through the streets. If you've spent enough time in the Street Outlaws universe, you're probably familiar with the Cromod. Big Chief released that insane extreme pro-mod style Pontiac in 2016 following the tragic crash of the original Crow. It was Big Chief's audacious declaration that he wasn't going anywhere, and it was more than just a contingency plan. Nearly 9 years later, the Cromod is once again in the public eye, but this time it has a completely different appearance and new owners. To put it simply, it has people talking. A flashback to the past with a Butler Performance 482 Ci Pontiac setup and twin turbos that put down some hefty numbers, the Cromod made a big impression when it was first presented at Lights Out 7. The Cromod was at the forefront of the trend at the time, which was performing low 3-second runs on radials. However, the car sat silently after Chief pulled the motor for one of his subsequent constructions. A historical roller, hidden somewhere, almost forgotten. New owner, new look, and new strategy. Recent images of the Cromod have returned to the internet, and in its new blue color scheme, it looks menacing. The new front end and hood haven't convinced everyone, but what's below is incredibly intriguing. The new owner is rewriting the mythology rather than merely preserving it. The Cromod is currently running on 275s and has a new twin turbo system, the specifics of which are still unknown. Yes, you heard correctly. The beast that used to have large tires is now smaller and is aiming for the very competitive Pro 275 and No Time divisions. It's a significant change, and it may be the best one yet. The environment of no prep has shifted. Let's face it, the Cromod's 2016 experience is very different from 2024's scene, with less tires and little preparation. With more power, more tires, and less regulations, modern cars are completely different. Weight restrictions were being completely removed by Speed Promotions, the organization that is driving change in No Prep Kings. When you add that to the fact that there are no restrictions on visitor entries, the door opens wide for a wildcard like the Cromod to make an impression. It might look like a guest entry, definitely feasible. Is it verified? Not quite yet. However, no one will be looking the other way if it rolls up to the line once more. Next-gen competition meets nostalgia. There is a lot of nostalgia in the Cromod. It represented Big Chief's perseverance and will to fight through difficult times. However, performance is now more important than legacy. The new owner is aiming for competition rather than merely flaunting a collector's item. And that's where the fun begins. Monsters abound in today's Pro 275 and No Prep classes. Lightweight rockets pushing large numbers, screw blowers, and pro chargers. The Cromod's configuration must be deadly in order to compete. Nowadays, horsepower isn't the only factor. It all depends on how you write it. Traction is also a science on little tires. Is the new turbo combination sufficient? That is the crucial question. Everybody's watching the tuning. There are no shady prep surfaces. Everyone is aware of it. If you can't hook, power is pointless, and the tweaking window is extremely small. The Cromod was designed for radials on surfaces that had been properly prepared. It is now approaching a world where each track surface tells a different tale and every launch is a gamble. This might draw a lot of attention if the new team has the proper people working on the laptop, but don't be fooled. This is a high-stakes race. Big money, live coverage, and greater attention than ever are all present. Error is not an option. Is this a story of Cinderella? In 2025, an underdog, or in this case a revived legend, may make their mark as Speed Promotions rewrites the rules. The bones are in the Cromod. It has the narrative. Additionally, it could move from a sentimental comeback to a serious contender if the new mix is successful. It's also important to consider how this might affect Big Chief's legacy. Seeing the Cromod back in action, despite the fact that he isn't driving, inevitably brings up the subject. If it's powerful, that serves as just another illustration of how innovative that initial build was. Concluding remarks for fans, the Cromod's comeback is already a victory, regardless of whether it dominates, surprises, or merely makes an appearance. The entire community is talking about it, and with good reason. In one of the most competitive periods of street-style racing, we're looking at a car that will not be forgotten. Will it soar the way it did almost 10 years ago? can traditional steel stand up to contemporary monsters?